identifying computers as my passion was one of the big things I did. And when I started out, it was like I'm 9 years old. What if there are people out there who think I'm just a kid? What if they don't treat me as an equal and don't respect what I have to say? But I found out that on the internet, it doesn't matter how old you are. My age barely ever came up. Instead, what mattered was what I already know, how much I know. And once I got that clear, I started putting a lot more effort into learning things. And I was trying to make myself more resourceful, more knowledgeable, and I started learning with a passion. So I've used over 16 languages in the past 7 years, and I've worked extensively in each one of them. So that's the second point. Once you have found your passion, you should concentrate on it, you should make it grow and work on it, work hard on it, and once you achieve some level of mastery in that passion, you become really good at whatever it is you want to do, you should go ahead and start sharing it. So I would like to share two incidents here. Like when I was giving my class and board exams, as many of you with Android devices would know, you can change the keyboard on your device. You can set it to a third-party keyboard, install whichever one you want and use that. But the process to toggle between keyboards is one that takes about 20 to 30 seconds. You have to close whatever app you're using, go to the settings, go down to language and keyboards, find the keyboard you want, enable it, disable the old one, set it as the default and whatnot. So I found that really irritating, and apparently so did a lot of other people, especially those who need to switch between languages, like people in India and China. People would switch between Hindi and English and Chinese and English. So I wrote an app that allowed you to quickly slide down the notification bar from any app and tap on an icon over there to change your keyboard. So instead of a 9-step process, it got cut down to a 2-step process, which was a great time saver for me. And then I figured that if I was getting annoyed by this, there's a very good chance that the other people in the world were also getting annoyed by this. So I published this app online, and today it almost has 100,000 downloads. So if you find something in your passion and you use your passion to build something that solves it, you should go around and share it. There are 7 billion people out in this world. The chances that what you found annoying was annoying only to you and you were the only one who needed it solved is ridiculously low. If you go ahead and share your work, other people will find a use for it. Second example is that when I signed the contract for the book, there were very few resources on augmented reality available out there, and it was a very new field even then, and people simply did not know what to do with it. So during my research for the book, I found out that there is no good library for Android or augmented reality. So I teamed up with a developer in Germany, and we ported an existing C library from a very old desktop system to run on Android. And we created a Java wrapper for it so that you could easily access it within your app. And then this library was the first of its kind of Android, and we decided to open source it, which really increased its reach, because if we kept it closed source and started selling commercial licenses, very few people would be able to access it. Instead, by open sourcing it, we enabled anyone and everyone with an Android device to be able to use this library in their apps. And then people did use it. A couple of months after the book came out, I got an email from a Stanford PhD student who said that he was citing the book at the library in his thesis paper because it was one of the few resources available which he could cite accurately, and that would be considered acceptable by his advisors. So that did help people by publishing an open source library instead of making it paid and sharing what we had learned. We were able to share what other people could easily use now. And that's my third point. Once you've made a mastery or something, you've excelled in one field, you should share your knowledge in that. There's a lot of forums out there, there's a lot of online sites where people who are learning, like you once would have been learning, they come, they pose their questions that I was trying to do this, but this happens instead when I was expecting this to happen. So in that case, there's a good chance that you're already aware of what the problem is and you can help them out. And that's what you should do. You should share the knowledge which you've acquired and make it useful to other people too. So these are the 3 points I'm trying to make, that you should find your passion, you should learn, and then once you've achieved a mastery, you should share that passion with others. And then there's no reason you should stop there. We're all young people here, and we have a lot of our lives left ahead of us. So if you find a passion and you excel at it, like say one of you really likes photography and becomes a really good photographer, there's no reason you should stop there. You could always find another passion. You're already good at photography, okay, great. Now go do something else, excel at something else. Don't limit yourself to only one thing. So, for example, after I started doing web development, 2 years after it, when I felt that I had learned all that I could learn in that area at that moment, I moved into desktop, and then I moved into the mobile space, and now I'm working with companies on augmented reality hardware, which is an entirely new field to me because I've barely worked with hardware before. So, after you've achieved a mastery in something, you should go on, expand your horizons, find something new to excel in, and then excel in that, and then repeat the process. Don't learn one thing, learn 20 things, learn 50 things, learn 100 things. There's a lot of your life left to just sit back and say, okay, I've mastered in this, I don't need to do anything else now. So I'm hoping that some of you at least find this inspirational, some of you follow this advice, find your passion and excel in it, and then go ahead and share it with others, and that at least some of you will take something good away from this talk. Thank you. If there are any questions that we have to answer.
Please, if anybody has some questions, you're free to go. Anybody? Thank you so much, Raghav, for sharing your experience with us.
I knew a bit of JavaScript. I could add a flair to the website. There would be animations, it would scroll, there would be music, flashing colors, all the things which we now consider very annoying in websites. So after working with about websites for about 2 years, when I felt that I had done a lot of work in them, I felt that there has to be something more than this to computers, I started turning my attention towards desktop software. So by this time I was around 11 years old, and I already had a fair grasp of programming itself by then, but I decided to explore newer languages. I didn't stick to the web world, and I started learning the .NET framework by Microsoft, which took me a while, but I started out with Visual Basic, which simplified things in the sense that you don't have to make your own UI, you just drag and drop the controls, and after that you add various listeners and events to them, so you can have them do whatever they want to. I spent about 2 years working on desktop softwares, and when I was 13, I wrote a very basic operating system. Now, I don't have a confirmation on this, but I'm probably the youngest person in the world to do that. It was written completely in the assembly programming language, which is about as basic as you can get, because at the assembly level, you're directly interacting with the hardware. So this was a very big challenge for me, because up till now, I had been using frameworks developed by other people to achieve what I want. And to program in assembly, there's nothing separating you from the hardware, so no one has made your life easier. It took me almost 3 months to write an operating system which in all total less than 1 MB in size. And it didn't actually do much. Once you booted it up, there was a text editor and you could play Hangman, and that was the end of it. But then in 2011, I received my first Android phone. And I had already been programming for about 4 years now, and I decided that I've done desktop, I've done websites, so let's do mobile as well. And within 1 week of owning the phone, I had developed my first Android application, a simple game of noughts and crosses. Now, that application I would never show to anyone anymore, because it's really, it's terrible, as I must say myself, because the UI, there's just like 9 grey buttons, and you tap one and the computer plays its move, and there's no multiplayer, there's no music, nothing, because I wrote that within a week. I had no previous experience with Android. and I was also just learning Java in the beginning then. But after that, I started putting more effort into my applications. I bought a couple of books, I went through them. There's a lot of great tutorials available for Android on the internet, and using those, I slowly started to get the hang of it. So my second application was an earthquake monitor. So what it did was it would contact the United States Geographical Service site for a list of all recent earthquakes and plot them out on a map for you, and tapping on any one earthquake in the map would give you details like its magnitude, where it occurred, what time it occurred, and how old it was, if it was likely to have any more tremors. So I was actually quite happy with that application, and I published it, and it got a few thousand downloads, which I was very happy with because it was my second application and the first one I published officially. So I kept working on Android then, and I got into this technology called augmented reality. Now, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with it, but the basic concept is you take the view of the world, you have a camera which sees the world as it is, and then you process information from that camera feed to give you additional ideas, additional information, location-based things. There's a whole lot of applications. So to give you an idea of what it is, something like how many of you have seen Iron Man or Terminator? So something like the display in those movies. So when Iron Man looks through his mask, he'll look at something and it will circle it in a blue dot and say target acquired. So that in a sense is augmented reality, where you scan the video feed and overlay real-time information on it. So I started getting into this. I developed a very basic game based on augmented reality, and I published that as well. And around this time, I was very one of them. So I accepted their offer, which was a little hasty on my side because it turns out they didn't know that I was only 14 at that time. And when the time came to sign the contract, I said, I'm 14, I'm not legally allowed to sign a contract. So then they told me to take a step back. They went and asked their lawyers if it was even legal for me to be writing a book. And as it turns out, it was legal for me. So my father signed the contract on my behalf. And I wrote the book, which again was a really big task for me because I had developed one augmented reality game previously, and that was about the extent of it. And I spent about 6 months writing that book. And in the process, I learned that there was not much available on augmented reality in relation to mobile phones to begin with. In fact, there wasn't much available on augmented reality anywhere. It was a really new field. And unlike previously existing fields like game development, there were very few examples. There was very few experts, so to say, on that topic anywhere. So I started doing my own research. I tied up with another developer in Germany, and together we ported an existing library that had been around for 5 years to Android, and then we created a Access API in Java for it. So this library is called AND-AR, and we open sourced it, and this is what's also used in the book.